We'll be talking about pronoun antecedent agreement questions. They're worth about 10 points on the SAT, but sometimes more, so you should always be ready. So, as always, our approach will be to look at how to identify pronoun antecedent agreement questions. We'll build a formula to solve these questions, and then we'll solve a practice question. So first, what are antecedents? A lot of people just don't know what these are, and once you understand it and you get rid of this complex word, these are some of the easiest questions on the SAT. So, an antecedent is the word or phrase a pronoun refers to or replaces in a sentence. So, here's an example. Sarah lost her book. Sarah is the antecedent of the word her. So, since this pronoun is referring to Sarah, that means Sarah's the antecedent of this pronoun. So essentially, if they're ever using pronouns, at some point in the passage, you needed to refer to the person so you know who you're talking about. So any pronoun is always going to refer back to some actual proper noun that is going to be a name or something like that. So this is what you're doing on these. We're going to find the right pronoun for each antecedent, essentially. So here's the formula. We'll read the passage. We'll identify what antecedent, which is the noun the pronoun is referring to, the blank is referring to, and we'll find the pronoun that correctly refers to that antecedent. So let's try it. So first we'll read the passage. Influenced by new research findings from scientists at Harvard, Yale, and Stanford, the World Health Organization released updated nutrition guides. These university researchers provided compelling data about global eating habits. In finalizing the recommendations, blank guidelines reflected current medical consensus. So I actually give you a really hard one to start here. And I'm just going to do a hard one so you understand they still are all the same. So step 2, we're going to identify what antecedent the blank is referring to. So let's look at this blank right here. Okay, and then let's find out what it's actually talking about. In finalizing the recommendations, blank guidelines reflected. So it's saying whoever owns these guidelines is the person they're going to be referring to. So now we go back and we find out who owns these guidelines to find which pronoun we want to use. Influenced by new research findings from scientists at Harvard, Yale, and Stanford, the World Health Organization released updated nutrition guidelines. Okay, so this is where I chose this as a hard one because a ton of people think they're speaking about the scientists but the actual owner of the guidelines is the World Health Organization rather than the scientists. So this is how people often get it wrong. So now we're going to find a pronoun that would refer to the World Health Organization. So this is going to be one entity. So the answer would be it. So I just want to emphasize, this is how people get it wrong. They don't actually understand what the pronoun is referring to. And they often find something like scientists or a recent thing like recommendations or guidelines even, and they think that is the thing they're referring to and they have a pronoun for that. You have to make sure you know what it's referring to because it won't sound wrong with a wrong answer. Like for example, in finalizing the recommendations, their guidelines reflected current medical consensus. That doesn't sound wrong, yet it is wrong as it's referring to the wrong thing. So the speaking check that some people do with grammar questions don't work here.